The next question is, what are risks here? How can things go wrong for adjuncts and how can you fix them? And I know I have a couple of thoughts about here. I have kind of a great story. I owe Highline a high five, and let me tell you why and how. I'm on the bargaining committee for my school, my institution. And when I was sick one day during one of the bargaining committee meetings that happens outside of management when we're working on strategy, there was sort of a forceful call to abandon the 1% for all strategy and to work on a strategy that the college would have preferred, which would give folks, full-time folks, a more significant raise than the adjuncts. And so that had been brought up while the adjunct representation on the committee wasn't there, and then kind of brought forward later. And the idea was to bring it to the membership to kind of get a conversation. So that's one of the things that can go wrong when you don't have enough adjuncts on the bargaining committee. If somebody's sick, if somebody like gets called for jury duty, if somebody steps away, you don't have that representation in the room to make sure that adjuncts are being treated equitably. But on the flip side, what sort of saved the day is my union president is such a badass that when he heard about the 80% for adjuncts over at Highline, he said, okay, all right, well, what if we look at the strategy of increasing the raises for core faculty, but then we also use Highline's 80% for adjuncts and tie that to these proposed raises, which even though it didn't go through, but it's the percentage for adjuncts is more significant. What you're working on is more significant than what we had. We actually didn't have any sort of symbiosis between the two pay scales at all. So my union president used sort of inspiration from other places to create that symbiosis, which gave us a adjuncts a more significant raise in the proposal than had been previously presented. So anywho, there are ways that our full-time faculty can look out for adjunct interests and do look out for adjunct interests, but it is so crucial to have more than one person in the room so that if somebody gets sick, you're not sunk. Are there other thoughts about what happens when things go wrong, how to fix them?
Well, I just, instead of what happens when things go wrong, I just kind of want to connect with what you were saying about, hearing about 80%, which we didn't get, by the way, but you could still use that. And, but then, so it's so important that we're helping each other, that we're making sure all of our contracts are good because we're looking at other contracts, right? And getting ideas. And so I just wanted to, I don't know if it's a time to talk about it now, but Doug organized a meeting with Analea at TCC and their union president, and that's where we started to really think about strategizing how to get to 80%. What did TCC do? And so Analea, if that's okay, I would like maybe if you could just talk about that a little bit.
Yes, please.
I'm happy to actually. I think the biggest thing we did was something that Doug mentioned when he was talking is we took the EDI vernacular and we asked them to show us the money. So one of the things that all faculty agreed on when we went into negotiations was that we wanted this new contract to actually have very purposeful equity, diversity, and inclusion language in the contract, right? So we went through the entire contract and changed to more modern, so to speak, language related to those efforts. And because all faculty and admin wanted that, so they already bought into, oh, same place, we 100% agree, go through the contract, change all the language to make sure that, we're using they, et cetera. And they bought into that piece. So as soon as we got to the part that all faculty agreed on again, because we really are into what, at least the faculty are into what equity means, faculty all pushed, including full-timers, for this to be the issue, like the issue this time. And we had language, which I don't know, I haven't been able to find it again, but where are those best practices? At some point in time, it said 85%. So we came to the table with, the state board says a best practice is 85% pay equity. We all agreed. We just started the negotiations with everyone saying we're going to read the entire contract and change the language to make sure it highlights equity, diversity, and inclusion. So boom, here's a thing. We want 85% pay parity because that's what's been determined as equitable at this point in time. And it was really hard for anyone to come back and say they didn't want it. Now, it was easy for them to come back and say they didn't have the money. But then, of course, we pushed back because we had the full budget and how that pie is divided. And one of the ways the pie is divided is that instruction was only getting 40% of the entire budget. And we brought up the equity piece in that, and that's a choice on where you budget things. So when you don't have the money is there. You just don't allocate it in an equitable fashion, or you don't allocate it highlighting instruction. And we showed, if you moved X piece out of this box and put it into this box, then your argument wouldn't be valid any longer. And since you believe in equity, this is what we're asking you to do. And so we started with 85, and I don't even know what horrible percentage we were at, because every adjunct was just paid $4,444 for a 5-credit class, period. It didn't matter if you had 13 PhDs or you had a bachelor's degree. You've been teaching for 100 years or 1 year. And now our calculation is 80% of the full time. And that calculation is in your Dropbox if you're curious how we don't do like it is a step thing, but it's based on however it's in the contract that full-time salaries are calculated. So you would just do that exact same thing, and you multiply by 80% and something about hours and all the things. But it's in there, and I'm not the mathematician that was on the team. But that's how we did it, right? We just got everyone to agree to a thing, and we knew that they were going to agree to it. And then we sort of put their back against the wall to show us that if you agree, why can't your actions match your words?
And that is so smart to like get them to agree to the moral argument, right? Like, that was so clever. Thank you for sharing that.